Alright, now we will be showing a Nova build. This is not the most insane Nova build, but it's comfortable and fun, and that's what matters. Hopefully you like the Nova fashion. Like how slick it looks. Little heart on the chest. Anyways, let's get to the build. I'll get to the Archon shards here in a second. So, one of my biggest problems with Nova is the lack of consistency in her abilities being usable across the board, because you have to build all of the different stats, right? So first of all, we will be using Neutron Star for this build because otherwise her one is kind of due to damage reduction does not scale well, not into endurance content, and even if it did, her health is already quite low anyways, and it only affects health, not shields. So that's kind of worthless. Neutron Star lets it be an actually damaging ability. Despite this augment getting nerfed in the past, it is still quite good, or at least in my opinion. We will be getting rid of her antimatter drop for Terrify, which I'll explain in a minute. Because it can be made to be good, but it's more of a meme than anything. Her now you have to build duration. Okay, back to having to build for everything. You need duration for her one, duration for her three, and you a fair bit of it. You need efficiency because they're all expensive. Spamming your two is expensive, spamming your four is expensive, spamming your one, even though it's cheap with Neutron Star, is expensive, and then spamming Terrify is expensive, as it would be with most other helmets. Range is important, or at least to not have negative range, because otherwise you screw up your wormhole, you screw up your one, and you'd screw up your helmet if it takes range, like Terrify. And strength is important because it affects the slow on your 4 as well as the damage from the explosion. It affects the damage on your null stars as well. Also, the duration that affects null star, it makes it how many there are, which affects damage as well. And then it can also, again, affect your helmet, in this case, Terrify, because we need it to full strip. So it makes building everything a pain. And on top of that, she has no survivability at all. So the easiest way to make her survive would be pillage in most cases. That's why I like on a lot of frames, but that's if I can build strength. If I can't full strip in a single cast, it gets annoying. And we can't build 328 strength. That's not going to happen. So the next best option is brief respite catalyzing shields. So we will be going for a shield gate build today for survivability via brief respite catalyzing shields rather than the typical pillage would I go for. So this is what the build looks like. You can run whatever you want in the Exilus, sure-footed, prime sure-footed, handspring, whatever you feel like. It doesn't really matter. Um, Now we have Neutron Star, as I said, to make our one good. So it's a damage ability, it's a nuke. Archon Vitality, the health is relevant. The double heat procs is what we want, since this has heat procs for your one. More damage, literally double the damage from the heat procs. Prime Flow for a bigger energy pool. Prime Continuity to get the duration. This is just enough. Any lower in your 4 is pretty horrible. Equilibrium, Streamline for energy consumption. Now, if you could sustain your energy without equilibrium, Stretch would be better. But I find energy is a big issue in this build. So Streamline is important because, again, reduces the cost. Now, if you were running just Streamline or Equilibrium, I like Streamline more, because otherwise, if you start spamming Terrify because you keep losing your shields rapidly in a row, it costs way too much. So I'd rather be able to use all of my abilities fast in one go than be relying heavily on kills because of how expensive my abilities are at base. But together is what I like to go with. I really wish, I mean, if you can sustain your energy enough, I think Stretch can work without, if you have no equilibrium, if you go Arcane Energize, but I know a lot of people don't have that. Molt Augmented is needed here, more strength so we get more damage on our 1, and more damage from explosions on our 4, and more slow on our 4. Most importantly, after about 100 kills, we can full strip on our Terrify, because it takes 168 strength to full strip with Terrify. Umbral Intensify is where our normal 44% strength is coming from. And that's the gist of the main build on her. For pets, I go Panzer Vulpaphyla because it can spread viral, so we get more damage on flesh-type enemies. I get Tenacious Bond for my weapons, though that's not really relevant. You don't need Tenacious Bond and Bite, not for this build. But Synth Deconstruct can proc off viral krills when it tags a bunch of enemies, so you get a lot of health orbs, helping with energy due to equilibrium. And Panzer Devolution helps just keep it alive more. So that's why we run that. The primary is whatever you want. The melee is whatever you want. Now the Archon shards. Unfortunately, most of my builds I try to make stuff that doesn't usually require Archon shards. My Atlas build does, unfortunately, and this kind of does too, which is sad. Because the casting speed on your 1, since you have to cast it twice, like cast and then again to send him out with the augment, Terrify, and your 4 have horrible casting speed. On top of that, I find without casting speed, your portal can be inconsistent sometimes. Like if you're running and you're falling and you cast it, you'll fall too fast and far and you won't go through the portal. So with the casting speed, it just makes going through the portal much more consistent right after you cast it. Like even there, see, like sometimes you still won't get it. I wasn't at max velocity like for movement, which is why that happened. But without casting speed, that happens way more often, though it rarely happens with the casting speed, as it happened again. Most of the time, though, trust. You can kind of figure. A big part is also where you aim to have the portal, right? So try to be careful about where you aim. The casting speed does help. So if you have no casting speed, it makes the build feel really clunky and it affects DPS since you can't cast your first as fast. You can fix it with Matter Eye and Power Transfer for 50%. At least 50% is what you want. Like 2 normal yellow shards will also work. Not as good as Tau Forged, obviously, but it will work. Honestly, if you wanted to fully invest in this, I would go 3 casting speed Tau Forged. But that's only like if you really, really want to invest in this build. Other than that, if you don't need the casting speed from Matter Eye, Zenric is really nice for the energy, because again, this is a very energy-hungry build. Other than that, you can run whatever you want if you don't need any of that stuff. Now, we do want to run a primer most of the time. I like Compressa, but I think Epitaph works better here. We'll be using it for Heat Inherit / Viral, for more Viral on top of our Panzer. So we go the typical Pistol Pestilence Frostbite for more, so you get Viral, and we have Status Chance, Multi-Shot, so it applies more because it's more shots. Get Fire Rate, Multi-Shot for Lethal Torrent, Augur Seeker for Status Duration, though you can go Perpetual Agony instead. Then Scorch and Heated Charge for Heat Inherits, because it's a big number of heat. Now, in case you don't know what Heat Inherit is, I suggest looking up a video and maybe trying to read it on the wiki. It can be really confusing, but to sum it up, sort of, this is a horrible, horrible explanation. But just to get a gist of it, big heat numbers on your mods, the heat damage itself will affect the heat procs on other stuff that deals heat ticks, okay? But this has to be the first heat tick applied. So you must use this first. So that's kind of the gist of it. So then also, if you have it, Prime Firestorm is great here for more AoE, though it isn't necessary. Also, Prime Heated Charge will give you more damage. Also not necessary, but the extra damage is nice. And I like Amalgam Barrel Diffusion for the faster dodge speed, though, again, not necessary. And then, other than that, I guess the last mod slot's open for whatever you want. So, this build, it's pretty good if you have the energy to spam your abilities. It's not insanely effective, but it can be effective. So you go in, because we don't have augmented build-up, we are going to need 2 casts. Our 4 makes enemies take more damage, it primes them on top of slowing them. And then we just spam the priming, and then you spam your 1 for all the heat. They all explode. It's very, very satisfying. You can kill enemies much faster. I was going way slower than you could. Like, you run in, normally you would only take 1 cast though again. So you do that. You'd normally already have your 4 out, and then you start. I totally forgot to do Epitaph. But you do Epitaph, and then you start spamming. Our damage is lower now, because I didn't hit them with Epitaph first. Unfortunate. But it is still very capable of killing. It's pretty decent. Again, not insane, but pretty decent and very effective. You also still get the mobility from having Nova with their portals, and you get the slow from her 4, you get the Terrify effect, right? Scaring enemies away from more crowd control from your 2, and then the damage from your 1. It's a lot of stuff going on that's quite nice. Plus the slow from your 4 stacks with the slow from from the guaranteed cold proc. The more viral procs you have on them, it's also going to do more damage. It's just, it's got a lot of potential, and I think it's a very fun build that makes use of Forgotten Augment because it got nerfed. I don't know why. That was weird. It would not tag that enemy in the corner. That was weird. Anyways, though, pretty good. I like it. Not insane. Fun. Decently effective. You should be able to take this fairly far into endurance so long as you up prime the enemies enough. So I would not take this to level cap or probably anywhere past like level 3000. Still pretty good though. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. I don't think I'm forgetting anything. Yeah, I don't think I am. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If not, leave a dislike. If you did, maybe like. If you want to see more, subscribe. That would be great. Leave a comment saying what you would like me to do next. Adios.